Hi, I'm John, and in this video I'm building Adirondack chairs, these chairs. So if you're interested, stick around. When cutting these out, the important thing is to stay on the outside of your line. We're going to use the router with the template bit to cut right up to the line. So don't get too aggressive on when you're cutting these out with the jigsaw or a bandsaw. So one thing you have to be careful about if you haven't used one of these big template bits before, you really need to pay attention to the direction of the cutter head spinning and the way you're moving the router. So you definitely don't want to, you want to go from left to right. If you go from right to left, this cutter head will pull the router pretty aggressively. So if you haven't used one before, just be mindful of that and take your time and take little passes if you have to, but go from left to right. It's just the opposite of when this thing's mounted on a router table, which is when you would go from right to left, because you've basically flipped the cutter head the opposite direction. So I'm going to set up a stop on my miter saw because I have 6 of these to cut and then 6 of these to cut. So the most important alignment here is on the bottom. You want to make sure that the bottoms line up. I've cut all the seat slats out of 1x4 material, and these are 22 inches long. And I have to cut these down. They're not quite 3.5 inches, they're a little bit smaller. And I basically cut them down and I put angles on them about 8 degrees on the table saw. So I rip an 8-degree cut, and that's so that they sit a little bit better on the cross rail or the rails. Now there's 4 of these for each seat, and there's For each seat there's also a front one which gets doweled onto the front skirt. Now this one is different because I basically routed a round over on this edge, and then I stuck with the bevel 8 degrees on this edge. So I've got those separate so that I don't cut them on both sides. So these are the 3 that I get attached to the skirt, and they only get a 45, or they only get a 10-degree angle on one side. To ease the edges on the front legs, I'm going to go ahead and route these with a 3/8 inch round over. I've clamped all the arms together, and I'm going to go ahead and sand them as one big block. So I'm going to put a 1/8 round over on just about everything. There are 2 pieces that need to be angled, and they're both back support pieces. So this is the upper back support piece, and this has to be on an angle, and this is the I guess it's the middle back support piece, and again this is the same angle. And so in order to do that, in order to do these, you can either cut them with your jigsaw or bandsaw at the angle to begin with, or what I've done is I've cut the pieces to match the top or the bottom of the angle, and so I can just sand with my belt sander to get this angle. So I'm going to set my sander to 20 degrees. You can see that if you run it along here, this angle will be your 20-degree angle. You're doing it upside down, so the edge on the bottom you don't want to disappear. So as soon as your sanding gets close to that, you want to stop. Now that all the pieces are cut out, sanded, routed, and I'm ready to go ahead and start putting them together. I did drill holes in the templates, so you can see a couple of holes here, and we'll transfer those onto the actual pieces before we start putting it together. So you want to put a piece of wood underneath where the holes are going, so that when the drill bit exits out the back of the wood, it doesn't blow it all out. I put a mark on the template where the lower back support goes, so that it'll be consistent on both of them. Okay. So there's only two drill bits that I'm using. One is the 1/8 inch for the smaller bits, or for the smaller holes, and the other is a 1/4 inch for the lag bolts, or the carriage bolts. Now we made the marks where the back lines up. So these are 1/4 by 20, 2-inch long carriage bolts, and they're galvanized, and the nuts and the washers are also galvanized. So we're using 2-inch wood screws. These are exterior wood screws. I've got my tapered drill bit set up. That's going to basically go almost the length. Now these aren't self-tapping, so I don't want to. I want to make sure that it's not going to split the wood. This one I did put it on a bit of an angle because essentially I don't want to get too close to the edge on the back slat. Now for these I'm using 1.5 inch. These are number 8, 1.5 inch. And again, they're exterior screws. And I didn't want to use the 2-inch because it would get pretty close to these carriage bolts. So before I put the front slat on, I'm going to go ahead and glue everything together at this point, and then I'll dowel this part on once that's done. So it sits out about 1/2 inch. So I've added these a little bit bigger right angle braces here and clamped it down because this was off by just a little bit and I wanted it to line up after I put the glue on. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the, now that all these screws are in, I'm going to go ahead and put some wood putty on everything. And by the time that's done, I should be able to put the dowels in. Where the arms marry up with the base, I also transferred those holes to this little template so that I could just pop this on here and then drill the matching holes that go through the arms. And these are for the 2-inch, number 8 by 2-inch wood screws. They go through the arms here, here, and here, and into this support, the base support. And so rather than trying to figure out where that was each time, this way, once this is done, once I drill these, it's set in stone, and those should all, each of the arms should be similarly configured on the chairs that I make. Now that the base is done, we have to get the arm assembly done and put the seat slats in and then the back slats. So all of the back slats get marked the same way, and I'm coming in 3/4 of an inch on either side. And then obviously 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom. Now that this frame is set in place, I want to go ahead and line up my seat slats going down to here. Now's a good time to do it and get them lined up. Then we can take this assembly off and screw those in down to about here. And then we'll deal with the seat slat or the back slats, and then we'll come back and after we finish those and we put all the screws in, then we'll come back and finish up the seat slats, which the holes will already be drilled. I'll mark them so they go back in the same place, and that's I think the easiest way to do it. So it gets on the bottom, it gets butted up against the middle slat, and then the top, this is the distance between the two. So now that I've got it all put together, I'm going to take it apart piece by piece and kind of glue it up. Okay, so before putting the bottom slats on, I want to go ahead and put the top back brace on. And this kind of just aligns the back slats and gives them a little bit more support. I'm using these little blocks to make sure that the spacing between the middle rail and the top rail, or the top support, is always going to be the same. Before I put in the seat slats, I'm going to go ahead and wood putty all of these holes down here, because I won't be able to get to them after I do that. So these chairs have already had the putty in the holes and sanded, and then a second round of the putty. And so they're all just need a final sanding, and they're ready to go, ready for paint. So that's it. That's all 4 chairs built. Last little bit of sanding to do, and then I will be painting them with General Finishes milk paint. I'm not going to be using my Fuji Semi-Pro 2 HVLP spray. I'm going to be using a Graco Airless. I've never used one of those before, so if you're interested in checking that out, I'm going to be spraying General Finishes chocolate, I think it's chocolate or dark chocolate milk paint, and I'm just going to spray it right on these chairs. I'm not going to spray any primer, and if you're interested in that, check out my video on finishing the Adirondack chairs, and thanks for sticking around. I hope you got something useful out of the video. Not bad. I need that thing turned around.